technology. We'll be learning a little bit about Docker, and yes, I will be telling you some tips for effective learning while performing the quick labs. And also at the end, we'll be having a quick Q&A session where you can ask your doubts. So yeah, what is Google Cloud basically? So Google Cloud Platform is a suite of public cloud computing services provided by Google. So like you all must be aware of what is cloud, right? It's not the metaphorical clouds that we see in the sky. So it's basically is like a storage platform. Right. So Google Platform is also providing this kind of cloud services, and we see in our day to day basis also, like we have Drive and all that. Even those all are stored in the cloud, right? So Google Cloud is basically a platform which is providing these services to us. So it's not just about the things that we use in our day-to-day life, but also even on a level of engineering or production level as well, we will be using cloud on a much larger basis. So this is what Google Cloud is about, and we are going to dive deep into it today. So yeah. So, like these are the main offerings given by the GCP platform. We have the Google Cloud, the Google Compute Engine, which is IaaS based, and like you must have, if you have started your quick labs, you must have gone through the machine instances and all that, right? So these come under nothing but the Google Compute Engine, and it helps us to manage our workload hosting. All right. So next we have the Google App Engine. So this is a PaaS based platform. So this again enables us to access the Google's scalable hosting. So and next we have the Google Cloud Storage. So like we have the BigQuery, SQL, MySQL, NoSQL, and all that, right? So all that, that large and unstructured data that we have, and we use these queries to perform certain tasks on this data. We do it on the Google Cloud Storage. So next we have the Google Container Engine. So it is associated with the Docker and Kubernetes engine. So we will be seeing what Kubernetes engine and Docker as well shortly. So these are like the main offerings provided by GCP. And next, this is like the whole range of services that we have on the Google Cloud platform. Under compute, we have the compute engine, app engine, container engine, and the cloud functions, as we have seen. Next, we have the storage and databases, the cloud storage, SQL, Bigtable, Spanner, store, and all that. You can see it on the screen. And then we have and under networking, we have the VPC, virtual private cloud, and then cloud balancing, cloud CDN, interconnect, cloud DNS. In the 30 days of GCP, we don't have all of these, but we are going to cover like some of the important topics. So yeah, in this session also we will be covering all of them. And next we have the big data and IoT. Like as I've mentioned, the BigQuery we have, and then we have the cloud data flow, and then we have cloud PubSub. We are going to cover cloud PubSub shortly as well, and we also have the machine learning. I guess in the track two we do have this machine learning and data science track, in which we will be covering some of these in the quick labs. But in this session we won't be covering about machine learning. So yeah. So, I've seen people asking a lot of questions like, what is the difference between IaaS and PaaS and SaaS, and what is like on-premise? So, all these four are like cloud-based services only, but there are like a sort of slight differences in them, like based on the applications that you're building, or based on the service that your company or organization is looking for. Different organizations opt for these different types of services. All right. So IaaS is this infrastructure as a service. So as we have seen before, so this is like a pay as you go, in the sense like how much ever data you're using, or for what reason you're using. So accordingly, you will be paying for this kind of cloud-based service. Google Cloud is providing, I guess, all the three: IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So I guess, like, according to the organization or the company's needs, they will be opting out for either of these. So for PaaS, we have like hardware and software tools that are like available on the internet. And then we have like the Google App Engine. It comes under PaaS, right? Next we have SAS. SAS is software that's available via a third party over the internet. Like I think Amazon's AWS also uses SAS. So this is the like a small example of SAS. And next we have on premise. On premise is like some of the companies and organizations have their own services, like in their same building or something. They have this their own cloud based service, so that is on premise. Now let us talk about the Kubernetes engine. So Kubernetes engine is also known as the Gates. So it is basically this is the open source system. Unlike other services based on Google Cloud, Kubernetes is open source in nature, and it is mainly used for automatic deployment and scaling and management of containerized applications. If you have gone through the engineering tracks and if you have completed some of the quests, you must have come under like creating clusters under Kubernetes engine, right? So this is mainly for creating these kind of containerized applications and for managing them, and also like it helps us in scalability of these applications. Some of the features are like automated rollouts and rollbacks, and next we have storage orchestration, and then we have like IPv4 and IPv6 dual stack. You can hold your IP addresses in both of them, IPv4 and IPv6. And then like it is self-healing in nature, in the sense like if at all some of the containers that you have created have failed, it is going to restart them and it is going to test them and redeploy them again until the problem is solved. Like you don't have to do it manually, the Kubernetes engine is going to take care of it. And then we have the like you must have created some pods, right, when you are doing the GCP labs. So these Kubernetes engine are providing the pods. Like they you give your own IP addresses, right? Like this is the IP address I want to name my pod. So this Kubernetes engine is like enabling you to do so. And then of course like as we've already mentioned, that Kubernetes engine has a great feature of scalability and extensibility as well. So next, coming to the next topic, we have the cloud IAM and monitoring. So what does IAM stand for? IAM stands for identity and access management. So like you must have come across the IAM roles. So we have like different roles. We have the viewer role, we have the editor role, and we have the admin role. So this viewer role is like gives you only a read-only access. In the sense, you will be able to view whatever is in that system, but you won't be able to change or manipulate it in any way. And then we have the editor access. Editor access is like you can view it as well as you can like edit it or make any changes or manipulations. And next is the admin access. Admin access in the sense you will have complete access to like assign these IAM roles to other people and to yourself as well. So this comes under the admin. And next we have alert policies, dashboards, incidents, notification channels, service monitoring, uptime check configurations, metric scope configurations, and API permissions as well under the IAM itself. A quick definition about what metrics and time series mean. Like you must have come under that if you have done few of the quests. So metrics is like basically something that you can measure. Like you must have initialized some particular parameter for CPU utilization. Like you might want to use some 80% of the CPU you want to utilize, or some 60%. You must have assigned some values, right? So these metrics indicate such kind of values, like that can be measured. And then we have the time series. Time series is basically it is a data structure that will hold all the time stamps, that this is the start time and this is the end time. So that is what a time series means. uh, Next we have the cloud. pub sub. So what is a pub and sub? So it is like publishers and subscribers. All right. So this pub sub basically like enables you to create systems for event producers and consumers. It's not just about like how on YouTube channel you just subscribe to channels. It's not just that way, but also like if you have subscribed to some kind of service, like you are signing up for this kind of service. Maybe you have, for example, like if I take a real world example, if you have subscribed to some magazine, some physical magazines, then the magazine company is going to like deliver you some magazines on a monthly basis or something like. So basically you are the subscriber and they are the publishers. So in a similar way, in this cloud pubs up also, it is kind of like a middleman between the publishers and subscribers, which enables the overall what do you say, a way to a communication between the publishers and subscribers. It is working as a middleman over there. So it is like a messaging and ingestion for these event driven systems, and also the streaming analytics. Like for example, I can say here the source is the order service. All right, so then this cloud pubs up will show the order topic over here, and then like it will send some packaging and notification to the subscriber, and the subscriber will receive the packaging and that notification. Like for example, if you have ordered something online, then like the PubSub engine over there will take care of what kind of order you have kept from the source, and then it is going to send you the notification or something that okay, your package is going to arrive in this much time. So that is how it works, and many kinds of like services use this platform. Like it can be a packaging service or a shipping service or an order service. It could be like of any sort of thing. So yeah, like this is also an overview about the PubSub. So these are like the sources of data. It can be like the apps or mobile or the databases or the IoT devices or the front end services as well. Like you can change data and capture services, and then we have cloud IoT core. All these like are the sources of the data. And then like as I've already mentioned that this cloud PubSub is like a middleware or a middleman over here. And then we have the targets, like from the source it has to reach the target, right? So we have the file based messaging and notifications, like if you want to send the subscriber some kind of notification or something, then we can use all these kind of services over there to target the end user. So yeah, end user app notifications we have, and then we have the BigQuery and App Engine and Cloud Bigtable. So these are the sources and these are the targets, and Cloud PubSub is the middleman over here. Next we will be talking about the VPC networks. So what are VPC networks? A virtual private cloud. VPC is a virtual private cloud, and it is like a virtual version of a physical network. So, like inside the Google's production network, we will be using this virtual private cloud as a virtual version of that physical network. So this VPC is providing like these kind of features. It provides connectivity for the cloud engine virtual machine. Like you have created like VM instances, right? So like this VPC network is kind of providing you that connectivity to your VM instances. We even the JKE clusters, like you must have created some Kubernetes engine clusters, right? It is also providing connectivity to that. And then we have the App Engine flexible environment instances, and also like we have other Google Cloud products like built on these virtual machine instances. So then we have the native internal TCP, UDP, load balancing and proxy systems also, like the HTTP load balancers that we have created. And then we have the like on-premises networks as well. Like we have discussed about on-premises, right? Like under the same building. So these on-premises networks, which are using these cloud VPN tunnels and cloud interconnect attachments, this VPC network is enabling to connect with those as well. So then we have like whatever traffic that is coming from any external load balancers to this Google Cloud Engine as well. This VPC network is providing connectivity for those as well. So like overall, this VPC network is basically providing you connectivity to almost most of the Google Cloud services. So that is what a VPC is. And next is our identity aware proxy. So what is an identity aware proxy? It is also like for short, it is known as IAP. So IAP is basically like a single point for managing user access to web applications and cloud services. So it basically gives you access to, like only some people can like have some kind of access. We do have a quick labs where quick lab session where like we are told to browse through a particular website provided by Google Cloud. It's like provided by the quick labs itself, where we do not have the permission to view a product. Okay, but when we like change this IAP, this identity aware proxy, and give permission for us to be able to access that particular kind of product and view it, then we are able to. So this IAP basically gives us access to various kinds of services or like some kind of thing to view. For example, if we have seen some kind of e-commerce platform, then like the admin or the owner of some kind of like brand will have a different access, and the customer will have a different access. Like the customer won't be able to access a brand's like details, right? um, but the brand is able to access their own details. So that is how this IAP is basically providing a kind of uh, like what do you say, platform to like manage these kind of access to various services that we are using under the applications that we are using for Google Cloud. Next is the cloud armor. So this cloud armor is basically to protect our applications and websites against denial of service or web attacks, like any kinds of web attacks or some kind of DDoS attacks. If we come under that, this cloud armor is protecting us from that. Like it is going to automatically detect any kind of attacks, any kind of external attacks that might be issued to that particular application, and it is going to, like the word armor says everything, right? It is going to provide an armor against these kind of attacks. So like it uses an ML system behind it, and it is which enables the automatic detection of this kind of attack. And then we have the rate limiting and bot management as well. So this bot management is basically if you are initializing some kind of bot to monitor your particular application, then this cloud armor is also going to like manage that by itself. Like you don't have to do anything manually. So next we have Docker. So what is a Docker? So Docker is basically an open platform for like developing, shipping, and running applications. So basically, Docker is not completely associated with Google Cloud, but it can be integrated along with the Google Cloud platform. So Docker is like an external party application, and it is going to like integrate to your application and also like with the Google Cloud platform. It is enabling you to like separate your applications from your infrastructure. um, so like it is basically an integration. So it's like suppose you have integrated your application with Google Cloud, it is going to separate your Google Cloud infrastructure and your application from each other, and it is going to like deliver your products or your software needs quickly. So like with this Docker, you will be able to manage your infrastructure in the same way you manage your applications. Like it is going to give you what do you say, an ease of access basically. Like you will also come under Jenkins. So you will be like integrating this Docker and Jenkins together, and you are going to integrate it to your application so that you will have an ease of access. And then we can take advantage of this Docker's methodologies like for shipping, testing, and also deploying code easily. Like using this Jenkins UI, also you will be able to like deploy your code directly from the UI itself. So it will also like significantly reduce the delay between writing the code and then putting it under production and all that. So like this is a small introduction about Docker. Like going to the docs, maybe you can learn more about Docker as well. So we will be giving you some tips for effective learning. So the first tip would be like you can watch the short videos associated with your labs, right? Like whenever you open some of the quick labs, then you will be coming under those short videos, which you can like which comes under the student resources. So I really encourage you all to go through those videos and see them. They're like really short and it gives you an insight for what labs you will be performing, because like we all will be doing it very quickly, and the main thing that comes to our head is that what exactly are we doing here. Like we don't have a lot of time, we were just given 30 days for completing at least one track, and few of us are even targeting to complete both the tracks. So I really encourage that you at least watch those short videos so that you get a slight basic understanding of what you're doing in that lab basically. And then of course we all are so tempted to just copy the commands and then paste it and just complete the labs. But yeah, really encouraged to type out the commands if you think that you do have sufficient time for doing the lab slowly and effectively. Then we really encourage that you do type out the commands. uh, that yeah, if at all like you feel that those commands are too repetitive and you have already done it again and again, then yeah, maybe you can consider copying those commands. But otherwise I would say that please type out those commands. Yeah, like of course, when if you are going through some lab and you just don't want some kind of monotonous lab session, and you're really curious about something, like as we have spoken about the Kubernetes engine, and then we spoke about the VM instances, the IAP and IAM and all that, right? So like whenever you're doing the labs itself, and if you think that I have sufficient time to complete the lab, so let me just search about it and read more about it. Like there are Google Cloud Talks itself, and there are more videos and tutorials on those as well. So I really encourage that if you're really curious, then you should watch it rather than keeping it at the end that okay, after I complete all the labs I'm going to read everything about it. So that might not happen, because you might get deviated from this itself once the labs are done, because we all have so many things to do nowadays. So yeah, so these are some additional tips for completing the labs. So like usually you will be able to like complete the labs in like far lesser time than the given time usually. But then when it comes to the challenge labs, maybe it will take you the whole of a time. But yeah, I really as I've mentioned before, since you have sufficient time to complete the labs, please read them carefully and also search for more topics or more tutorials based on that particular topic that you are performing the labs under. So yeah, you will have sufficient time to complete the labs. Yeah, like if you like read and follow the instructions properly, it is going to actually save you time. There will be a point where most of us will be like, okay, this is a long lab, let me just copy paste the commands and let me just finish it up. But then what happens is that sometimes if you don't read the instructions properly, then you get deviated from what the actual motto of that lab is, and you end up making mistakes, in the sense that if you just copy and paste the commands, if you were supposed to like replace some kind of command in between of those commands, like if you were supposed to insert your project ID or something as such, and you have not read the instructions properly, then like it is going to get you in trouble for that particular lab session, and then you end up like doing the lab all over again if you're going to make many mistakes in such a manner. So I really encourage you to like read the instructions properly and do the labs. So like whenever like you're doing the challenge labs, right? So like since we don't have a really like lot of time with us to complete the lab slowly and effectively in a wholesome manner. So what I would suggest is that like if you're getting confused while performing the challenge labs, instead of just googling that how do I perform this challenge lab, what you can do is you can refer to the previous labs, take the reference from the previous labs, and then perform these challenge labs on your own. So that would be like way better than just googling and to see the direct commands for the challenge labs. I have seen many people do that, so I really encourage you people not to do that, and do this instead, like referring to the previous labs and then performing the challenge labs. Like we really understand that it is not really easy to digest all of them at once, but I think that this would be a really effective way to do so. So, like, if you're really experiencing like high traffic or something, that I have seen many of my GDAC members facing the same as well. So, what you can do is you can perform these labs in a not so obvious time of the day, something like late at night or early in the morning, to beat this kind of traffic, so that you won't have the issue of sometimes the labs show that estimate time remaining for getting the resources. That happens due to a high traffic experienced by the Quick Labs platform during that particular time of the day. So, like, if you do it in a very obvious time, something like 6 in the evening or something after 10 in the morning or something like that, then maybe you're going to face high traffic at that time. So, it's really encouraged that you do at something like an unusual time of the day, according to your comfort, obviously. So, like in case of other issues, and especially during the challenge labs, like I've seen many people that while performing challenge labs, they get disconnected from the lab or something, and then usually challenge labs tend to be really long, like they're longer than the other labs. So people get discouraged when they get when the lab ends or something interrupts in between, and they like completely stop doing altogether. So instead of that, whenever like you're performing the challenge labs, especially, you can like start doing it in the incognito tab. So incognito tab is like little less prone to errors and end of labs due to any other reasons. So I really encourage you people to use incognito tabs or other browsers. So yeah, that's it from my end. Like, do you have any doubts or queries you can ask? I think I'm going to look at the chat box because I we do have a few minutes, so in case you have any doubts or queries, and you can tell me if I've gone too fast. Like, if I have gone too fast, you can ask me for reiterate some things if you have not understood. Well, I see no doubts here. Sanjana, I think we can wait for 5 minutes for the doubts, I guess, after
Yes, we
confirming.
don't have a lot of doubts right now, so
Yeah.
Diksha, unfortunately, I don't think we have a lot of questions with us today. So maybe it's better if we conclude now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you
Yeah,
all
that
for
was
having me
wonderful.
here. Thank you, Sanjana, for being such a great host. Thank you, Guru, and thank you, Divyansh. I can see only all of you here. So, thank you, everyone.
If any of you would like to connect with Diksha on LinkedIn, please go ahead and click on this link. It's in the chat box below. And yes, you'll be able to connect with her. And Diksha, it was a lovely session, dude. I clearly have an understanding of how the club functions, how the cloud functions internally now. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sanjana. Yes, and I can see one DM here. Like, I think it is from Deepak Kumar. He is asking that if he can get a recording of this meet because he was not able to like attend this event because of other classes.
Right. Deepak, you'll be provided with the events recording soon. It will be posted on a YouTube channel, so you can go ahead and check it out from there. Uh,
Thank you,
Deepak, if you
Sanjana.
have any questions related to the cloud or anything you might have missed, or if you want some tips or anything, feel free to ask Diksha about it.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then let's conclude this meeting. Thank you, Sanjana, again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Diksha. Thank you for being here.